Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
I stand before you as rather a different sort of ex-minister, really, because I am the only minister this nation has ever had, ever, in the history of Britain, that didn't belong to the party of government. And when Gordon Brown asked me if I'd do it, I said, I will, but there'll be two conditions. I said, one is I won't join the party. And I said, don't take it personally, Gordon, I wouldn't join the other lot either. I've always believed business should transcend the factionalism of party politics. I never have, never will belong to a party. And I always believe that it is one area where you can get around the world and promote your nation and do your country some good without taking part in the tribalism of it all. And I said, and the other condition will be I'll go in 18 months. And he said, you haven't even started. And I said, no, but it was Harry S. Truman when he was Vice President of the United States. He became president when Franklin Delano Roosevelt died in office after peace in Europe and before peace in Japan. And on that fabulous late spring morning in Washington, 1945, Harry Truman said in his inauguration address, he said, it's remarkable what you can achieve when you don't care who gets the credit. I know it's not fashionable to say this, and I know that everybody in many other walks of life actually want to kick business every day. But business is the only sector in our society that is going to get us out of this, because we can only succeed if we trade our way out. And business is the only part of our society that actually generates taxation. Loads of other parts of our society actually spend it. And so many other parts of this country will tell you about spending it, cutting spending it, ring-fence spending it, delaying cutting spending it, increase cutting spending it. Very few people talk about earning it. And yet, if you don't create wealth, there is no taxation in this nation. Do we need a public sector? Of course we do. Do we need a better educated workforce? Of course we do. Do we need a healthy society? Of course we do. But they all get paid for by the tax that is generated from the wealth that is created by business. Think about it. When a business makes money, it can only do one of three things with it. It can either actually reward the shareholders who took the risk by way of either capital gain on sale or a dividend, and they'll pay tax on it. Or you can keep it in the business as retained profit, you'll pay tax on it. Or you can employ people, bonuses and all, and they'll pay tax on it. And that tax goes in part to pay for our teachers and our doctors and our nurses and our soldiers and our policemen, our prison officers, and they'll pay tax on it. But if it wasn't for the tax that's generated from the wealth that is created by business in the first place, there would not be a penny that could be paid to the public sector at all. And I actually don't think enough people get that fact. I don't believe that the media do. I don't think educationists do, or environmentalists, trade unionists or journalists. Politicians don't. I think they think it grows on trees, personally. And we have to get that mood music better. I'd like you to imagine that this, all the way to here, is China. So you've got Beijing here, you've got Shanghai here, you've got the Pearl River Delta down there, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, Guangdong. And in this here, you've got about 300 million people. That's the population of the United States of America. And that's going absolute gangbusters. That is the China that keeps the developed world awake at night. That's the China that people say they've stolen my job. That's the China that's got $1.7 trillion in cash on deposit in New York. But from here all the way over here, you've got another billion people. And the contrast is so acute, because here in Shanghai, in communist China, the percentage of GDP that's in the private sector in communist China is greater than the percentage of GDP in the private sector in my hometown of Birmingham, or in Leeds, or Manchester, or Newcastle, or Glasgow, or Cardiff, or Belfast. But over here, you've got a farmer, and he's got a pig, a cow, a bit of rice, worried sick about whether he's going to get through this winter. And he is like another 800 million people sitting there. 800 of the billion are on under $2 a day. National minimum wage in Britain, $10 an hour. 800 million Chinese are on under $2 a day. And every one of them wants your lunch. And Beijing have said to him, no vote, no demonstrations. If you want to do your moaning, you do it in private. We're a bit iffy on the God stuff too. But in return, we'll make you richer. We will make your $2 a day, $4 a day, $8 a day. Your kids will be $16 a day. Your grandchildren will be $32 a day. That's the deal. And in return, shut up. And sometimes, you know, I think we in the developed world sort of look at that through, I don't blame us, but through our end of the telescope, don't we? I don't think we actually understand that if I was that farmer, I might do that deal. I'm talking survival. And we sometimes, and it's nothing to do with the human rights side of this at all, sometimes looking at it from we who've had 1,000 years of the development of democratic capitalism, we tend to sort of not cut that farmer much slack. But it must follow that if you're in Beijing, you've got to get this wealth line that way just as quickly as possible. Because if you don't, he won't do his side of the deal. And so they're pushing it that way in a command economy, and they're moving what happens here over here. Vacuum here, what do they put in there? What you do. What Germany does, what Australia does, what America does, what Japan does, France. And they're moving it slowly this way, and they're slacking in there what we do. Now, this is going to go on for a long, long time. It's not new. It's exactly what the Americans did to Germany, France, and Britain after the end of the American Civil War, 1865, and the First World War in 1914. They moved their wealth line that way, off to the Silver Sea of the Pacific over California, wagon train. Japan did it to America after the Second World War. Korea did it to Japan in the 1980s and 90s. This is not new. But the enormous difference this time is the sheer size of it. 1.3 billion people, every one of them promised that they will get richer through basically having your lunch. Now, that of its own should not frighten us. Because you see, as he gets richer, he is going to have disposable income. And what do I want him to do with that disposable income? Well, I want him, if he has a mobile phone, for it to be Vodafone or one of its partners from Newbury. As he gets off his bike and into a car, I want it to be a Mini made in Oxford. As he starts to bank, I want him to use HSBC or Standard Chartered or Barclays. And at the end of the day, I want him to send his kids to a British university. Because he is going to want to spend his money on what they don't do at home. And we have a chance. We have a real chance. Let me just quickly take you to the other great global challenge. 1 billion people this time, India. And at the end of the day, fabulous travellers. Fastest growing sport in America at the moment, cricket. Why? All the software engineers in California. But at the same time, they not only travel well and create wealth, but back home, they put education at the core of their family values. Now, of the billion, 750 million of them, 3/4 billion people, still work on the land. They haven't industrialized yet. You imagine when they do, they're going to get richer, and there are no bigger snobs, and they're going to want lots and lots and lots of the value-added stuff that we make and provide. So we actually are in quite a good place. Because as we face these two enormous global challenges, we have come at it in rather a different way to other countries. You see, America thought that globalization meant Americanization, and they've had a very, very rude shock. So America's got to get used in this different century to having company at the top table, and how she deals with that will shape a lot of what we can and can't do in the next 100 years. But we have always been a more open, globally aspected society. If you think of Courtauld, now there's a name to reckon with. Courtauld was actually a Huguenot. Came out of La Rochelle, a weaver, told if he carries worshipping his God like this, he's going to die. Came to Lincoln, actually, to a place who said, I don't care about the colour of your skin or the God you worship. I'm not fussed about that. Come here, bring your skill, speak English, work hard. This place is for you. The Siemens brothers, another name to conjure with, came to London, registered their patents here, borrowed their money here. The rest is history. And we're doing it again, where immigration has been such a force in the last few years for wealth creation in this nation. Last year, only 2 countries in the whole of the European Union made and exported more cars than us, Germany and Slovakia. Only 2 made and exported more cars than we did. And because we're this open sort of society, in the 80s, we welcomed Nissan to Sunderland, Honda to Swindon, Toyota to Derby. And we said, come in. And I can remember at the time, you know, I mean, success has many parents, orphan. Failure is always an orphan. And I can remember people saying, oh, this will be the end of the British motor industry. They'll just merely come in and they'll clear off. Well, last year, Nissan made and sold around the world 300,000 cars made in Sunderland. The only place that Toyota actually makes its e-car, its environmental friendly car, anywhere outside Japan and America is in Britain. And you can not buy a 4-door Honda Accord, even in Tokyo, that isn't made in Swindon. And we are at the same time the home of the 2nd biggest pharmaceutical manufacturer on earth, GlaxoSmithKline. And we are the home of the European headquarters of the 3 biggest pharmaceutical businesses on earth. And food manufacturer at the top end. The stuff that my friend down here in southwest China, as he starts making a few bob will want to buy, we do it really well too. All the high value added food manufactured and drink manufactured products. Manufacturing is actually here to stay and to do well. But it isn't going to succeed if we actually don't have the mood music with us, and if we don't have a government at least walking to the beat of our drum. The mood music, that just needs a little bit of shift in emphasis. Coronation Street, which I know you will watch, has only ever had one serial killer in its storyline. He was a businessman. He wasn't a trade unionist. He wasn't a journalist or a doctor. He was a businessman. The Archers have only ever had one crook, really. You're right, he was a businessman. And the BBC think that a business programme is a man who gets out of a Rolls Royce with a big fat cigar and shouts, "You're fired." We've got to get the mood music just slightly more on the case of wealth creation. And I have a government right now who makes speeches about how they are rebalancing the economy, how they are supporting manufacturing. And at the first whiff of gunshot, they actually buy their trains from Dusseldorf and not Derby. You see, the EU procurement rules are very easy. There is a tender. The previous government, of which I was a member, actually got it all wrong. They asked them to tender on certain bases. There was a tender. A tender is not a contract. A tender is an invitation to treat. This government could tear it up and start again. They would in France. They would have in America with the Airbus air tanker and the Boeing rival. But no. And the procurement rules say it has to be best value, not best price. So yes, they're very, very good trains from Siemens in Dusseldorf, excellent. And they're 10% cheaper. If you've got the support of your domestic economy in a protected society, you'd be 10% cheaper. And so, if it's value, you're allowed to think about, well, what do you do about the 1,500 skilled people who are going to be laid off? What do you do about the children who are coming up through school thinking, I'm not going to do that sort of job because they're always making you redundant? And how about the value that's created when you know you have an order book that can iron out all the ebbs and flows of the order books of major projects, and then on the back of that you invest properly, you train properly, you become competitive, more productive, and you sell around the world. That's best value. And the last government and this government, we have people who know the price of everything and the value of nothing. And what we have to do is get a government procurement program marching in line with tomorrow's value-added, innovative, quality, branded manufacturing sector. We really do need a vibrant financial services sector. It's no good saying let them leave, because that really would be the baby going out with the bathwater. The whole financial services sector in this country represents something like about 12% of the entire tax take of the nation. Don't say goodbye to that. But what we need to do is let that carry on growing, but get everything else growing more quickly so it becomes a more balanced pie. Creative industries, textile design, web design, theatre, music, art, cinema. So there are good news stories all over the place in rebalancing our economy. But we have one or two challenges. And I think the biggest challenge when it also comes to reforming the public sector is actually the same challenge in the medium term. And that is education. Everybody in this nation has 11 years of full-time, free, compulsory education. Half the kids, 48% of the kids, who took a GCSE last summer did not get grade C or above in English and maths. 20% of the adults in our nation, 1 in 5, of all the adult population of the United Kingdom cannot read or write to the standard expected of an 11-year-old. And before anybody tells me that's what you get from immigration, the average adult illiterate in Britain is white, male, and 26 years old. 30% of the adults in this nation cannot add up 2 three-figure numbers. They are functionally innumerate. And we want to take him on, do we? We are putting into the world of work people unfit for purpose. So much so, I read yesterday, Morrison's up in Salford in Manchester, opening a new store, and have said we're going to take on 200 people from within 3 miles of this site. We're going to actually be a beacon of local employment. They have sent 150 of them back to school to learn to read, age 16, 17 and 18. What does that say about where your taxes have gone for the last 11 years? And if we want to reform the public sector, because I don't care whether this is Germany or Britain or whether this is Canada or America, we are all of us going to want more for less. Then if we're going to do it, we do not want those people to work harder. We want them to work more cleverly. We want it better invested with better kit and then better trained and skilled people to deal with it. And you will never get change out of people, ever, if they don't feel equipped to deal with that change. The key to an enduring, sustainable reform public sector is better skilled people who feel equipped to deal with it. And at the same time, if we actually want the NHS not to have to deal with so much at such a cost, if we actually want less crime in our streets, if we actually want a feel-good factor coming back, equip the people. Because when you don't feel you can deal with globalisation, when you actually feel that you are completely without hope, and you're looking down the double barrels of a changing society, and you feel you can't read, you can't write, there are no books in the house. Why do you have books in the house? No one reads. Then the guy selling white powder down the end of the street seems to have the answer. Then they come and mug you and nick my car to pay for that. You don't take care of yourself. You have no self-respect, so therefore the NHS have a bigger bill. And the life of crime and all that flows from it is just one step away. That is why it is so important that we deliver people into the world of work who actually can read, write, count, and basically operate a computer. How would I deal with that? I'd do 3 things. Firstly, I would make it a matter of contract for teachers. If a child goes past age 11 or 12 and cannot read, write and count, medical condition absent, this is a matter of contract with all that that means. The teachers would say, well, they're very good at playing the oboe, and this one's extremely good at painting. I'm very pleased with them. Well done. But I have to say, if you don't read, write and count, you are not fit for the world of work in a globalised, competitive 21st century. No matter how much people might not like that fact, it's a fact of life. The teachers would also say, I can't possibly do that with their help at home, and they're right. So the second thing I would propose is that we actually say to parents, if your children cannot read, write, count, and operate a computer, medical condition absent, by the time they're 12, basically, then your benefit stops. You can have food stamps, you're not starving, but the bit extra that you, the taxpayer, gives them to pay for their bingo ticket and their pint of beer and their satellite dish, sorry, stopping until they can read. And I actually believe these people would learn to read very quickly indeed. And then the third thing to do is to get hold of so many of them at the age of 14 and say, I'll give you an option. Instead of being so disruptive in the classroom, to yourselves, to your teachers, to others, instead of actually being bored out your skull, let us get vocational training into the schools. And let's link the school into local employment. And let's have them actually out of the classroom and into the world of work. And then let's make it worthwhile. Let's pay them some money so they actually get skill up, earn money. Skill up, earn money. And you know what they do when they earn that money? They'll spend it. You know what you do when you spend money? You create another job down the road. But at the same time, we would have to say to those employers, we want you to be the driver to trade our way out of it and create employment. I would abolish, for small businesses, national insurance contributions for employers. It is the only tax in this nation that doesn't tax money. Stamp duty, VAT, tax is spending it. Council tax, tax is owning it. National insurance contribution for employees, tax is earning it. National insurance contributions for employers, you merely have to create a job. You can be losing money as a business, and you still pay it. How crass is that if what you're trying to do is get business to employ people? And if that means the Chancellor says, well, I'm sorry, but that's going to be, you know, about £4 or £5 billion hole, because just for small businesses, I'd say put up corporation tax. Business should pay its share, but at least tax the profit, don't tax the job creation. And then hypothecate it. So actually, whatever it may be, might be £10 billion. Hypothecate it and say, we'll put up corporation tax to a level when it pays for it. But we're going to transparently tell you how much it is. And then as the economy grows, becomes more vibrant, and tax receipts get greater, then the first thing that gets reduced is that. And that will bring the corporation tax rate back down again. But none of that will work if we don't have one other thing in our society. You see, I've believed all my life in something I call socially inclusive wealth creation. I believe that business has every right to say to politicians, from parish councillors and local councillors to county councillors, whoever they may be, will you create an environment where we actually can get about creating wealth? And then meet me halfway. Get out the way. Stop meddling. This government, that was going to have a bonfire of regulation after the meddling of the last lot, is still making regulation at the rate of 10 a day, including Christmas Day. The last lot did the same. They can't help it. Wouldn't it be great if the Prime Minister asked a Cabinet Minister, what have you done today? Nothing. Take a pay rise. Just get out of the way and let us get on with creating wealth. But we cannot ask for that if we are not socially inclusive in the way we go about it, and openly, transparently so. We must train our people better. We must equip them so that as they lose their jobs, as that moves across, and that vacuum is filled with something one of these people is doing, then what's going to happen is that person should be skilled enough to feel there is no shame in redundancy. I'll go down the road and use my ticket for another job. It might well be they leave the country and take that ticket to another one. But what it's about is equipping people to feel they can. And the public sector have a big role in this. They're big employers. They should be big trainers. And they too should step up to the plate of training our people. We have every right to expect an education system that delivers them into the workplace with basic skill. But after that, it's down to us. Secondly, we should be, in our wealth creation, so much more environmentally responsible. I don't want to enter the debate about who actually is responsible for climate change. What I know is it's happening. I'd rather go down the argument of saying, do you want to pollute the world to give your kids cancer? If you want to make more money in a business, halve your electricity bill. Do it in other ways. Change your behavior. Stop using so much of it. But either way, we've got to become more environmentally sensitive and be beacons of change and show that we care. And then lastly, in our social inclusion, we have to reach out, down, round and under those who can't. We actually should be one of those totems in their community. When people are worried and stressed and so concerned, they look to their totems in their lives. They look to their God. They look to their religion. They look to their community. Well, I want them to look to their business too. The local business down the road that's there for them, linking in with a school, linking in with a community. You see, the Good Samaritan could only be a Good Samaritan because he made a few bob. It's no good walking across the street, bending down, lifting up your enemy, taking him to a place where he can be nursed back to health and paying for it if you haven't got the money to pay for it. There is nothing wrong with making money. It's what you do with it that matters. And in that respect, if business expects, needs, for the good of us all, to actually have more slack cut for it in a century where it has never been more important that it succeeds, what we need is for business to be a beacon of social inclusion on the way through.